Hello, my name's Alex Gupta with UATV. Today I'll be speaking with Mr. Emmanuel Cohen, the CEO of the RM Group, a corporate information and legal services company based in London. Hello, Mr. Cohen. Welcome to UATV.
Hi, nice to talk to you.
Good. Could you briefly explain what your company does and how it relates to Ukraine?
All right, what we do is corporate information, business information on something like 250 million companies. So if anyone wants to trade with another company from Ukraine, they want to make sure they're going to get paid, or they're going to do due diligence on that company. They go onto our online system and they can find out all the information they require on those companies. Also, we do legal services, like help to do the legal side for corporate structuring. We do brand registration and protection. So if a company is going out into Europe, for instance, they want to register a European trademark, we'll help them do it. We'll advise them on how to protect their brand, which is really important for especially new companies and new, young and vibrant up-and-coming companies going out into new markets.
How long have you been in the Ukrainian market?
Well, we used to have an office in Kiev up to sort of the mid-recession period, so probably about 10, 12 years.
Do you plan to continue expanding in the Ukrainian market?
Yeah, I mean, obviously during the recession period and the crisis, there wasn't a great amount of business coming out of Ukraine or within Ukraine, unfortunately. But we started exploring coming back into the Ukrainian market in quite a big way, because we actually identify it as a potential growth area for the future, especially because Ukraine has agreements now with the EU. They're sort of settling down in how they're working. They're going out into the wide world. Costs are less in Ukraine, so their economy, I believe, is going to start kicking off.
What has surprised you about the Ukrainian market and the business environment since you've expanded here?
Okay. Basically, going out into that Ukrainian market, I mean, it's a tough market. Don't get me wrong. It's people are the economy is quite badly hurt by the crisis, and but I think actually there's a certain kind of energy amongst all of the young Ukrainians who are there building their own businesses. There's a lot of enterprise goes on in Ukraine, and I actually believe quite sincerely that the Ukrainian mentality to many things is very similar to the British. And you can usually tell it in things like football, for instance, when we play Ukraine, it's only usually about a 1-goal difference. It's very similar. It's a mentality, it's a way of working, way of doing everything is very... And I think that's really good for Ukraine going forward, because, as, for instance, Britain, who's coming out of the EU, is potentially also a good trading partner.
What has been the most difficult aspect of expanding your business in the Ukrainian market?
That's an interesting one, actually. There are several things that actually are. I think it's endemic within the whole of the Ukrainian market. It's not just only for us. I mean, one of the things that really affects things is the crisis. There is no doubt it's affecting the economy in a massive way. I think it was like you've had a kind of like a 10 to 15% drop in the GDP generally for several years now. But I think that's turning around. And also, I mean, a massive problem in Ukraine is corruption. There is no doubt, and the Ukrainians identify it themselves, the EU's identified it, and until that can really be solved, it's going to be really difficult for Ukraine going forward generally. It's something that has to be addressed.
How have you been hiring local talent? Has it been easy, or has it been a problem?
Well, what we tend to do, because of the way people will work, we actually hire people on sort of contract basis, specifically to deal with any, as a kind of like a representative or agent, and not actually now. We've actually pulled out that part of our business, but where we were actually had an office in Kiev. But to be honest, we're actually looking at coming back, because the education level in Ukraine is quite high. The availability of staff is quite high because of the issues going on in the economy, and there's a great willingness to work. So it's just a case of finding the right people, as it is in any market, in any kind of place where one would go out and open a new office.
What advice would you give an entrepreneur or a business that wants to expand into the Ukrainian market?
Okay, firstly, to find the right people, to find and work through agents within Ukraine first until a business is built up. Try and find trusted partners in Ukraine. And what you're looking for generally from the point of view, say, of myself as a British company, you're looking at someone with a bit of energy as well, someone to represent the company in Ukraine who actually wants to do well. And also that they have to speak English, because unfortunately the English are really bad at speaking foreign languages. So it's good to have local people who know the language, who know the culture, and are able to work in that environment.
I know you've had offices in other countries in East Europe. Do you foresee Brexit becoming a problem?
Well, actually, the British are quite resilient because it's a massive trading nation and has contacts throughout the world. So, and it's also very trusted. The UK is very strong on rule of law. So the UK should actually, in the short term, I would expect there to be some kind of an effect. But in the long term, I don't really see a massive hit to the economy. I think the economy will probably grow faster than the EU over 20 years.
What about foreign direct investment into Ukraine? How do you see that being affected by the crisis in East Ukraine in the foreseeable future?
All right, well, there's no doubt there is an effect because, and it doesn't help to see fighting on the news. I mean, but people don't realise that the distance from where the fighting is to the main economic centres like Kiev or Kharkov and places like that is actually quite far. However, the crisis does bring in lots of issues in the sense that, for instance, Ukraine has a lot of natural resources like farmland. In fact, the Donbass region of the natural resources there of gas and oil. And there is an issue by having the war zone so close. And so the giving of licenses to access natural resources has to be trusted. That if a company's going to put a lot of investment into the country, but they've got to be sure that in 5 years somebody's not going to come along and take away their license to do whatever they had to do. And it's stability in the long term that helps the economy. And it's stability that invites investment to come into any country.
How much do you see the rule of law playing in providing stability in any country, but especially Ukraine?
Massive, massive. I mean, unfortunately, one of the main issues, and it's known throughout the West about the issues around Ukrainian companies having their shares raided and transferred, and that's due to corruption. That has to be solved for Ukraine to really invite foreign investment, because it worries companies that they put money into businesses within Ukraine, and as they build it, someone comes along and then takes away the business. And unfortunately, I've been and seen at various talks actual owners of companies who've had their businesses removed and taken away, and it's very sad to see it.
Mm-hmm. With regard to your co-workers or to other businesses in your field, have they expanded into Ukraine or East Europe like your business?
Well, I think a recession, I mean, there was a huge expansion prior to 2008, prior to 2009, and then a contraction from everyone. Okay. How things are happening now is that the markets are starting to stabilize, they're starting to open up again, so it invites people like ourselves back in to target that specific market and grow their businesses.
What part of the Ukrainian economy do you see the best future in, most promising?
Okay, if you take it over a long term, talking 10 or 20 years, and if you can have stability, you've got two huge markets, two huge areas that will actually really expand. First is farming and food production. The soil in Ukraine is known to be the most fertile in Europe. And then again, on the stability side, the Donbass region, the fields and the gas fields and oil fields there are bigger than the size of England. And for the future of the Ukrainian economy as a whole, those areas of natural resource have to be tapped, but only when you get that stability will you get the foreign direct investment to come and give those resources to help extract everything and actually develop them.
Mm-hmm. Does your company provide any legal advice or any services to people in that field?
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, we have a law firm as well, so we do contractual advice. And the one thing about knowing, you have to know your East European contracts, and it's one thing about Ukraine, if it's not in the contract, it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, we're lucky in the UK that we have what we call common law, whereas there's nothing like that in many parts of the world, not just Ukraine. So companies need, coming in there, they need really good, hard and fast contracts. And even between Ukrainian companies themselves, you know, they need really good, hard and fast contracts to make sure, because if it's not in the contract, unfortunately it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. So that's where we help people to sort of rationalise, make sure that they feel safe. And as one person once told me, the contract is not always about the marriage, it's more about the divorce. So if everyone's happy, you never get as far as the divorce.
Mm-hmm. I understand you had offices in the Baltic states as well, and Moldova.
Yes.
Do you continue to have services in those countries? Does the geopolitical risk at all weigh on your business?
Yeah, we don't have offices there now. We sort of closed everything down during the recession quite a few years ago now, and we only tend to work through intermediaries, lawyers, accountants, and banks in those countries. I mean, we tend to work out the UK. I mean, technology has changed a lot of things now. Okay. And being able to work with people now using technology is one of the great advantages. For instance, our online system is purely technical. It's purely through the web, or you can access our online system via phone, via iPhones and Androids.
And my final question, out of all the years that you've been coming to Ukraine, what have you enjoyed most?
Well, I've got a lot of friends there. I think of people, actually. I've met a lot of really nice people in Ukraine, and I've got a lot of friends there now. And I think actually that's actually Ukraine's greatest asset. There are lots of Ukrainians around the world as well. It's the greatest export, and it also means it's probably absolutely the greatest asset is the people.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Cohen, for joining us on UATV.
Great. Thanks a lot, Alex.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you have it. I'm Alex Gupta with UATV.